The Scientific Basis of Clairvoyance by Katherine Tingley, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. The Scientific Basis of Clairvoyance. Scientists must either deny facts, accept the miraculous intervention of a personal God, or believe, with Theosophists, that immutable law reigns in the psychic as well as the material world. Ages ago, the phenomena of clairvoyance were investigated by prepared and trained observers, and the foundation stone of the explanation is, as Theosophy teaches today, the existence of a subtle stratum or state of matter interpenetrating and surrounding the material world of our five senses, possessing qualities of vibration different from the physical and having a highly developed capacity of retaining the impressions of every event that has occurred on earth in such a manner that they can be recalled with the freshness of life. This property is similar in a degree to the power of the sensitized salts of silver in the photographic plate, which hold the image in a latent condition until development. No one has yet given a plausible explanation of the working of the photographic developer, and the coming into view of the astral image seems to be little more astonishing. A few who ought to know something accurate about the existence of the astral picture gallery have doubted it, spiritualists among them, and for such it is not out of place to quote this extract from William Quan Judge about certain spiritualistic messages received from an intelligence calling itself Jim Nolan. In replying, he upheld the old views about the astral light, only calling it magnetic light. As he was speaking of memory, he went into an explanation to sustain his position and said, "In ancient times, men called a certain light surrounding and emanating from every person the astral light, and upon which, they taught, was imprinted or impressed every thought or act of the individual. We, the spirits, call this emanation a magnetic light. All the acts of life are photographed upon the astral light of each person, the astral light retaining all those peculiar things which occur to you from day to day during life." End of quote. William Quan Judge goes on to say, "All these remarks of Jim Nolan's spirit we commend to the attention of spiritualists and Theosophists. And when we find, as in the case of Nolan, a great deal of theosophical and occult wisdom displayed through his medium, who was unconnected then with the Theosophical Society, giving explanations which accord with what many a theosophical student knows to be true, his opinions are of greater weight than those of such spooks as deal in platitudes or continue to crystallize more deeply the preconvictions of the medium or the sitters. In many of his replies he says that which, if attended to, would long ago have purged spiritualism and made the cult of value to the world. He urged purity of mediums and their non-contact with the world. He demanded a cessation of wondermongering, of seeking for gratification of curiosity, of selfish questioning for business or other temporary purposes. He insisted on intelligence in question and investigation. He found his requests refused, his suggestions ignored, and then he disappeared." There are some who think, and perhaps with reason, that he was no disembodied spook, but the spirit of an intelligent living person who sought, near the descending arc of the cycle of spiritualism, to inject a new method and bring about, if possible, a revival of true psychic investigation and demonstration in a body of people already largely prepared, but he was denied and ignored. End of quote. This true psychic investigation would of course have been on the theosophic and altruistic lines indicated above. Speaking of psychic phenomena in general, it is still fashionable in certain circles to ignore or ridicule them all. This is largely because of the fraud and outrageous claims of many mediums. But there is a true lower clairvoyance, and it is nearly always accompanied by cataleptic conditions, arterial or venous congestion, changes of pulse or other abnormalities of an undesirable nature. Much of the success in ordinary clairvoyance also depends upon the conditions of the astral plane at the time. As the Earth moves in its orbit, it enters into new regions where the conditions of the ether, the lowest division of the astral light, are under varying stresses owing to the relative changes of distance from the planets, etc. And as the Sun carries his family onward through the abyss of space, it is clear that a closer approach of the Earth to one of the fixed stars, say a red one, is bound to modify conditions in the Earth's ethereal surroundings. But it is impossible to go into detail about the astral plane in general here. For further information, the reader is advised to read the literature devoted to that subject. It is necessary to remember that the lower astral plane is not a high spiritual state, and that communications from it are most frequently trivial and almost always confused and misleading. The clairvoyance of the higher ego is on a very different plane. It is pure, orderly, spiritual and lucid, qualities in which the ordinary sensitive is deficient as a rule. But it is the lower kind of clairvoyance that is most usually meant when the subject is referred to.